What's the best restaurant in St. Louis? That is the question we food writers get asked the most. Followed by, okay, what are the top 5 restaurants in St. Louis? And then maybe, what are your favorite restaurants? Today, we're going to answer all of those questions. A top 5, ranked, as well as some of our personal favorites. Hello again, and welcome to Arch Eats.
This episode of Arch Eats is sponsored by St. Louis Public Library Foundation.
I'm George Mahey, quarterback of St. Louis Magazine's dining team, and with me is the team MVP.
Oh, I was going to think like tight end or something like that. I don't know. They're the hip ones last couple seasons.
I knew that would make you smile. I try to mix it up.
Exactly. Cheryl Bear.
There you go. In addition to the best, we'll end up with the one thing that can keep a restaurant from getting onto one of those best lists. But first, it's what we can't stop thinking about this week. And Cheryl is heading to a Mexican restaurant.
I am. So this is a late entry because I just had it only last night for dinner. There is a restaurant that I've driven by a million times off Clarkson Road in an unassuming strip mall right in the middle of Chesterfield called Selena's. And it's been there for a while. Just your little hole-in-the-wall Tex-Mex joint. And for some reason, I just felt like wandering in there. I guess I wanted some comfort. Tacos have been sounding really great lately. So I went in there. I got my standard combination platter, which if I'm going Tex-Mex, I'm going for cheese and sour cream covered and exactly what you'd want. But the wild card and the thing I can't stop thinking about is their shredded beef taco. So I ordered a crunchy shredded beef taco as my third choice for this combination platter. And it was almost like birria. This beef was beautifully seasoned, just dripping in juices. It was one of those you take a bite into it and all the juice spills out. Your hands are covered. It's probably like a good 3-napkin dish there. Yeah. And what was so neat was the tortilla. So it was a crunchy taco. But the tortilla wasn't just one of those standard shells. This looked like it was fried to order, and the meat was actually tucked inside, and it was kind of pinched around the top. So almost akin to like a dumpling or a pupusa or something like that, but still really crunchy.
So it was a flour shell, not a corn shell.
Correct. Yes, a flour shell. Gorgeous. I didn't have any consomme or anything, but again, it reminded me so much of birria that I loved it so much. I cannot wait to go back.
I want to go back and get just 3 of those as my order.
Exactly.
Combo platters are great, but it sounds like you found a winner.
Yeah, I did. I mean, the enchiladas and stuff, they were good. They were standard, but this was the winner. Plus, they give you this complimentary bean dip in addition to the salsa when you first get there, which, I mean, you can never have enough dip in your life.
No, anything to do with bean dip is a good thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So what about you? What's on yours?
So I went, this was again another recent experience, and I've talked about this a little bit from time to time, the happy hour at Pan d'Olive.
Yes.
Remember we talked about it when we were talking about mispronounced restaurants.
Exactly. Not Pan d'Olive.
No. And even the bartender said, would you like the Pan d'Olive pizza? I go, God, even the bartender mispronounces it. Anyway, at happy hour, I'm on record saying this is the best deal happy hour in town by a long shot.
That's bold.
And they have, I guess, maybe 11 items. They're all priced $5 to $7. There's flatbreads and there's scampi. There's an arancini. There's a stuffed phyllo cigar that's delicious.
Oh, wow.
Really inexpensive, decent portions. And what's crazy is the wine prices are $4.50 per glass, and there's about 10 different glasses you can get. And it's a really healthy pour for $4.50.
That's incredible.
It's insane. You can get a cocktail for a couple bucks more. I think we had 3 items and 2 glasses of wine, and the bill was $32 plus a tip.
I don't even know what to say. I still think you have to be hallucinating or something. There's no way.
I did a double take because I thought this can't be for real. But anyway, it's just an incredible deal. And what's best is their happy hour is from 4 to 7, which is, these happy hours that run from 2 to 5. I cannot make that call most of the time. I just can't make it. But 7 o'clock, I can roll in at 6 o'clock, have a full meal, and be out of there by 7 o'clock. Anyway, hats off to Pan d'Olive for doing this. And they've got an incredible lunch special, too. Everything there, including the entrees, the normally priced entrees, are really reasonably priced. Everything's priced in the 20s there. Happy hour. And again, it can be busy because it's such a good deal. Monday through Friday, 4 to 7, Pan d'Olive on McCausland. See you there. We'll be right back.
St. Louis Public Library provides funding to support innovative resources that spark curiosity and foster a love of learning in people of all ages. When you become a friend of St. Louis Public Library, your gift supports youth and digital programming. From free summer camps, to storybook walks in city parks, to film and animation workshops, your gift creates opportunities to learn, explore, and dream bigger. Learn more at slpl.org. And now, back to the show.
So let's get on to the best restaurants. But before we dig into our list, let me set this whole thing up a little bit. Cheryl and I are pivoting off the November-December issue of St. Louis Magazine, where the cover feature addresses 101 of the best restaurants in St. Louis. And Cheryl, you know, we culled this list from 175. It was hard.
It was very hard.
It was almost impossible to get it down to 101. But we did. That was a more manageable number. That was the right number. It's not one of these, everybody gets to be on. That's how it was getting.
Yeah, not a participation trophy.
That's right. So from that 101, Cheryl and I came up with our top 5 restaurants in town for the year 2024. And just to make it interesting, we ranked them 5 through 1. We're going to do that right now. Let's count down from number 5.
And I do have to say before we begin, George, I know you feel this way. I feel this way as well. We don't typically like to rank things because we love all of these restaurants so much. They all do such a wonderful job. All 101 of these places on there, we could make a case for why they belong in this position or not. But as you mentioned earlier, this really is the one question that we get asked constantly. And I do think that there is something special about making that call. And I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to take the heat if it comes to it.
And I think what was interesting is that you and I are like a married couple. We can complete each other's sentences.
Right.
And I thought, I forget I think this was your idea to rank them. I go, we're never going to come up. We were never going to agree on this. There's no way. And we agreed in no time.
Yeah.
It didn't take us long at all
to
come up with our 5 and to rank them.
Yes.
Which was amazing. But that just shows our agreement and our conviction to these 5 places.
Yeah. And I think it shows that there's a reason you can make a legitimate case for why these belong on here. So shall we begin?
Yes,
we are going to count from 5 to 1.
Yes.
So drum roll.
Yeah, we don't have
Exactly.
a drum roll, but
we'll have to get one here. So number 5, Noto. Noto, the beloved Italian Neapolitan pizzeria in St. Peter's, is just fantastic. They hit the mark every single time. You will not get a better Neapolitan pizza in St. Louis. They are the gold standard upon which all should be judged. There's an association that actually certifies Neapolitan style
pizza. They're
pizza.
the only ones on the list.
They're the only ones in the St. Louis region that's on that list. But what I think so great about Noto, besides the fact that Wayne and Kendall, who own it, are just the most lovely people, it's not just about the pizza. Yes, they excel in pizza, but I found in traveling and going to other places that Neapolitan pizzerias usually specialize and that is their thing. They don't do too much else. They have a full menu of handmade pastas, entrees, appetizers. Everything is just as exquisite as that pizza. So hats off to them.
I was a little concerned about a Neapolitan pizza place really at all because it's different than what most people know of pizza. It's also they're $20, $22, $24. I just said, boy, I hope this. And remember, they started as a food trailer.
Yes.
During the pandemic, and they opened this brick and mortar and proceeded to just kill it. Everything adheres to strict Italian specs. They get all their meats and all their cheeses from Italy. They're the most into Italy. They're as much as Gerard Kraft is at Pastaria. These guys are into authentic Italian. But what they did, you can't get into Noto. It's just too busy.
No,
it's too much fun.
Even we can't get in there,
No,
George.
we can't. We've tried. But what they did do is they opened a Cicchetti bar downstairs called Baccaro. And Baccaro has little tastes and little small bites and a completely different drink menu. And it's first come, first serve. So you can go downstairs to Baccaro before or after you go to Noto. Or maybe if you can't get into Noto, that's where you stay. But it alone is a great restaurant,
Yes.
and I just say those folks deserve props for taking a culinary leap in St.
Hmm.
Charles County, and if I had a glass of Amaro, I'd raise it in their honor right now. And another crazy thing at Baccaro, I've never seen anybody do this. Their bartender, a guy named Travis Shook, every month he does a cocktail pop-up where there's no menu. You go in and you tell him the kind of drinks you like, the kind of profiles you like, and he mixes drinks to everybody's flavor profile. It
How
doesn't
cool is
have a
that?
lot of people in it because it just doesn't work with a lot of folks, but it's the coolest idea in town. So I just tell me what you like and I'll mix something up accordingly. That's just like gold.
Speaking of gold, when I think of number 4 on this list, I think of something that is magnificent that I've never seen anywhere else, and that is the golden mound of butter that graces this service cart at Esca, which number 4 on our list. Esca is
It's
Ben Paremba's, I would go so far as to call it a flagship of his, with Elia and Olio being on pause. They're in the works, of course. They will be opening at some point in the next year. But Esca's really taking on that mantle of being Ben Paremba's fine dining, exquisite
and
restaurant.
really unusual. And when he moved his restaurants to the Del Mar Maker District, he started with Esca. He started with a brand
Mhm.
new one. He goes, I wanted to come out of the gate just with guns a-blazing, and
Did
he
he
did.
ever?
It's outstanding. It has a coal-fired oven and a coal-fired open grill, the only one in the city, and everything is, cooked over coal, which gives it that signature char, and it's like your dad cooked back in the day. You
Yes.
taste the
There's
charcoal in
such
it,
depth to it.
and the name comes from escalivada, which are smoked vegetables cooked over coal, which is their signature dish. And they cook branzino, an octopus, and they've got an Amish chicken and all kinds of wonderful things there. And this doesn't happen very often. Everyone that I've sent to Esca has called me back and said, thank you. That place
Yes.
was really cool. Whether they sat inside or outside, it's just awesome. And something that you don't know about,
Oh.
my friend, there's rumors of an Esca offshoot. And that's all I can say. And that's all I should say because it is a rumor.
Oh, George.
Maybe next time.
Oh, this is
All
exciting.
right. That's all. That's it.
Wow,
Just a rumor.
wow.
We better switch.
We better switch
Let's switch
gears.
gears. Let's go to number 3.
Well, something else that's in the works that people actually know about related to number 3 on our list, Box Hill Grocers, which will be opening soon in Wydown, is an offshoot of Wright's Tavern. Matt McGuire's, would you call it a steakhouse? I would call it a slice of New York City in St. Louis. What an exquisite restaurant.
And we've talked about it many times on this podcast, as well we should. And it's several years old, and you still can't get a table
Yeah.
there. It's got 35 seats, and I don't know that I've heard, I think, one complaint out of, and I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
Somebody's fish was overcooked. Okay, fine. Unbelievable restaurant. I guess you could call it a steakhouse, but not really. They don't have that many steaks on them. I thought it was going to be a steakhouse.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to really classify it. I would say it's more maybe meat driven, but their potato crusted halibut is one of my favorite things on there. Their burger, that burger that they have is luxurious. The roast beef sandwich,
Well,
equally luxurious.
I'm glad you brought that up. You don't have to spend $80 on a
Correct.
steak at Wright's. We go in there and split a crab cake and
Yes.
split a burger that they pile the fries on, or split that French dip sandwich, which is as big as a platter.
Oh my gosh, 3 people
And,
could eat
and-
off of
and
that.
you're out of there for not much money. So Wright's Tavern is a place you can splurge. It's a place you don't have to splurge. And like all these, every box gets checked. It's always just perfectly executed. And Carrie McDowell was a partner there initially, and Carrie's not there anymore. But you know what? Nothing has changed.
Hasn't skipped a
Nobody
beat.
even knows that he's gone because he left it in very, very good hands. And I keep tabs on this all the time. How'd you like it? Because I knew that the personnel had changed slightly. Well, it's just the same as it ever was.
I think what it boils down to is Matt McGuire is a genius. I would go so far as to say, if he's not the best, he is top 3 restaurateurs in St. Louis history. He is so good at creating an experience that is all encompassing, from the way you feel in the room to the hospitality to the food to the drinks. He makes it seem as if everyone who is in there is the most special person in that dining room. And that is such a talent. And that to me is what separates a good restaurant with really great food from an exceptional spot.
And the fact of the matter is, you do have to make reservations on the first of the month at midnight. Literally, that's when the reservation book opens
It's
up
like a
for the
line
for the
ticket.
fun. It is like a line tag, and that's just the way it is, folks. And there's no other way to get in, and just deal with it and go there. You'll be glad you did. Wright's Tavern on Wydown, number 3 on our list. That brings us to number 2. And there aren't a lot of restaurants that have come on the scene that so quickly establish themselves as something unique, and that multiple visits have been as anticipated as the first visit. It's like, I cannot wait to go back there. And it's almost hard to describe because it's so unusual. It's got kind of a tiki bar vibe. Some of the dishes are classic dishes from mid-century, which is kind of an odd approach. But the two owners there are unbelievably talented guys that had a real vision, and boy, did they hit it out of the park. We're talking about Mainlander, started in the Central West End, kind of a speakeasy vibe. There's not a sign
Oh,
on the
it's so
window. There's
tiny.
just a teeny logo, and there's 18 seats,
Mhm.
2 seatings a night, which was wonderful because it was so intimate. You felt like you were at somebody's house. And recently, they have made arrangements to move down Euclid Avenue to another storied location where Duff's used to be. And now they've got 2 bays in that space with those beautiful
Ugh,
brick arches. Anyway,
I
and
can't think of a more perfect steward for that space.
yes,
I mean, to me, that is hallowed ground.
yes, absolutely. And I'm sure these guys will continue the tradition down there. They're not going to have a whole lot more seats. It's not going to be they're going from 18 seats to 180. They're going to increase the seating slightly. They're going to add a bar, which they
Mhm.
didn't have before. So it's going to feel the exact same way, I think. And they'll still have unusual items like a fried rice-a-roni,
Oh, I love
a
it.
pineapple pork steak, the best roast beef you've ever had. Just
Yes.
kind of basic, straight ahead stuff that they serve family style. And it's always like, you can't wait to see what's next. And it's like, what the heck is this? There's a 5-spice candy bar salad.
Oh, it's
Are
so
you kidding me?
delicious. I love it because one of the partners in this, Gordon Chen, is Taiwanese. So there is a lot of Taiwanese influence woven through this mid-century sensibility, this nostalgia. So it feels modern and nostalgic at the same time, which is such a tricky tone to hit. And they just do it so well. My other thoughts on Mainlander is that, again, here we are talking about the way you feel in a restaurant. Notice that, yes, we've talked about several dishes, but we're not saying you have to go here because you have to have this particular entree or this particular appetizer. It's the hospitality. You walk in that restaurant, Gordon greets you himself. He hands you a drink, he escorts you to your table. And what I think is very unique about it is you've prepaid for everything
Yes.
in
I'm
advance.
glad you brought that up. You prepay
Yes.
for everything, including the tip, and they don't even mention tips. They don't want to even talk about it.
No.
Just no tipping. Everything's been taken care of.
And we've tried. I don't know about you. I've certainly tried.
No,
And they're like, absolutely not. This is something you take care of in advance. So when you walk in there, you really do feel that you are an invited guest into a dinner party at their home.
absolutely.
It's such a lovely
And it's
experience.
it's truly unique is a singular word, and it's a unique
Yes.
experience. And Mainlander is a breath of very fresh air.
Yes.
Mainlander will open their new digs in February. So hopefully more people can get in.
Right?
So that brings us to number 1. And I must say, you and I didn't even have to discuss it, which is unbelievable.
We basically finished each other's sentence.
And I think it's the same thing. If we have to throw out one restaurant where, okay, it kind of covers all the ground, covers a lot of bases, covers picky eaters or basic eaters, I think this fits the bill. It's called Louis. It's in the DeMun neighborhood. It's another Matt McGuire restaurant, and it's a checks in all boxes type of place. Ever since it opened, it was a tremendous success. And it's the same kind of place, very, very hard to get into initially. It's a little bit easier now. It's 72 seats, so
Hmm.
it's slightly easier. Not a big menu. Everything they have is perfect. There's maybe a dozen items, and oh my gosh, it's like picking a favorite child. Everything on
Yes.
there is really tasty. I think the most unusual thing, I've talked about this before at Louis, is the fact that they have bar seats, and the bar seats are for dinner. The bar seats are not for drinking. And I think that's a very unusual approach. You can't just sit around Louis' bar and drink. Those seats are for dinner. So when you come, if you're early for your reservation, you can't just hang out in Louis. They send you up the street to Sasha's to have a cocktail, have a glass of wine, and they will text you when your table's ready. The net effect is there aren't people 3 deep at the bar. It's
Mhm.
this very civilized, clean look every time you go in. They're as busy as they can be, but they're not super busy with people standing in line. It's a really unusual approach. And I thought it was funny because the Sasha's owner was kind of upset that he goes, oh my gosh, this guy's going to open up down the street from me. It's going to affect my business. And the first year, Sasha's had the best year they ever had because of the
Yeah,
increased
it
liquor
did
sales.
affect his
Yeah,
business.
it did,
It made it
for the
great.
better. So
Better, yeah.
that's my take on Louis.
Yeah. Louis, to me, everyone always asks, what's your favorite restaurant in St. Louis? And I don't even hesitate anymore. It's Louis, hands down. And when people ask me why, at first it was hard for me to say. I mean, I love everything about it. I love their food. I love the service. I love the decor. But any one of those things by itself is okay. Yeah, that's great. But I've come down to realizing Louis is a feeling. Louis is not a sum of some parts. You walk into Louis, you are transported into this restaurant club dreamland where every single person is a VIP. Everything that comes on your table is perfect. Even if it's your first time in there, because they know us there. We go in there pretty frequently. We have the privilege of
All
that.
the time.
Exactly, as much as we can, right?
Right.
But I watch them treat every diner in this way. And that to me is hospitality. That's why Matt is the best in the business. That's why Jordan, I don't know, would you call Jordan his right hand there? I don't even know what his technical role is. He's Jordan, the mascot, whatever you want to call him.
Manager, server extraordinaire.
Yes,
He's the signal caller there behind Matt.
signal caller. Exactly. But they just somehow are able to create such a memorable experience every single time you go there, and it doesn't get better. It is, to me, the embodiment of what St. Louis hospitality and dining is. It's the most essential St. Louis restaurant in town.
It's what keeps people opening restaurants go, I want to open
Mhm,
up a place just like that,
mhm.
until they try to do it and see how hard it is
Yes.
to get everything right all the time. And again, Matt McGuire has done it, and it's like, oh, this looks pretty easy. It's really hard to do, and he's done it. He continues to do it, and at Wright's Tavern as well. So double shout out to Matt McGuire.
Yeah.
2 of our top 5 Matt McGuire restaurants, well deserved. Okay,
All right.
we survived the top 5,
Yes.
and
No death threats yet.
no, not till this airs anyway. I'm glad we got through it. Like I said, it wasn't really that hard to get to, but there's so many more places that could have been on our top 5. And we had a couple shout outs just because. And one of mine, I'm going to go with a couple old school places that
Mhm.
sometimes people just don't think about because they've been around a while. Sydney Street Cafe, Kevin
Oh,
Nashen's
lovely.
restaurant, called one of the most romantic restaurants in town as well it is. And it's just a lovely, charming place to go. I think it's kind of a wintertime restaurant to me. I love it in the winter. It's very cozy in
Yeah.
there. They do seasonal things. They do a lot of rabbit. And I said, is rabbit back on the menu? Yes, it is. Kind of in a schnitzel form.
Oh,
Kind of
fun.
interesting. They're doing a lamb Wellington.
Ooh.
Never had that before. They're doing an oyster crudo with some blood orange and celery root mignonette.
Mm.
All these little specific, beautiful dishes. Nashon's been at that for over 30 years, and it hasn't lost a beat.
No.
It's still his flagship restaurant, his signature restaurant. I love Sydney Street Cafe.
Execution is always flawless.
Another place kind of in the same genre is Paul Mano's out in
Ooh,
Chesterfield.
that lamb at Paul Mano's. I know you're going to mention it.
And huh, there's so many things I could mention at Paul
Right?
Mano's. That's the great part about Paul Mano's is they've got this lovely menu with it. They're kind of old school Italian dishes, but great seafood, great lamb chops. And the crazy thing about it is they've got these daily specials that I've said this before. I get my heart set on something and I throw the menu over my shoulder because the specials are so good. Like I didn't even need to look at this. So that happens a lot at Mano's. One thing that's interesting, they're still busy all the time,
Mhm.
busy every night, open Monday through Saturday. But interestingly enough, they don't serve as late as they used to. And I think this is emblematic of a lot of restaurants in town. They used to serve dinner at 10 or 10:30. Now the last seating's at maybe 9
Oh,
o'clock,
wow.
Paul Mano says. And he said, this is just the way that it is. It's the way post-COVID people are dining. And he said, I kind of like it because I recall last New Year's Eve, I was home at 11:30.
Oh, wonderful.
So he was home to
Wonderful.
celebrate with his wife, and the staff was home to
Oh.
celebrate.
Well, something else to celebrate about Mano's, and I'll go ahead and say this is the greatest piece of news I got in 2024. I did not realize that you can get lasagna as a side dish for one of your entrees. So you can go there, you can have the lamb chops with a side of lasagna.
Wow.
What more do you want in life?
That's perfect.
It's wonderful.
You got a couple. I don't know if
Yeah.
we call them honorable mentions.
Very
These all
honorable.
could have been in the top
Very,
five.
very honorable mentions. Well, I love Twisted Tree. It is so consistent. They are kind of no frills. It's casual, but it's not the sort of pomp and circumstance of fine dining that we associate with that genre. However, you get the quality that you would at fine dining.
Yeah, I'd call it finer dining.
Finer dining, exactly.
It's not all, tablecloths and tuxedo waiters, but
Yes.
boy, the food quality's good.
And they do tableside finishes there
Right.
too, which again, it doesn't seem precious, but tableside finishes. I love their steaks. I think they are fantastic. Their salad with that pear tree vinaigrette and those croutons. Oh my gosh, I could make a meal out of those croutons. Wonderful. And of course, their wedding cake for dessert is my favorite dessert in town.
Excellent.
So I love that. My other one, Little Fox, a sweet neighborhood restaurant, but modern. They call it a modern neighborhood restaurant in Fox Park. Craig and Mowgli Rivard moved back to St. Louis from New York City.
Right.
They are just this unassuming spot that you are getting exceptional food, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel stuffy. But this is stuff that you could find at a white tablecloth 4 or 5-star restaurant. My favorite thing on their menu is that andouille marinated pork chop. That unbelievable. You get the fat of the pork, heat from that sausage. They have a great brunch.
And their menu shifts around a lot.
Yep.
So you have to make sure your favorite item is there before you
Yes.
go, or you might have to
But
choose
the
another
pork will
favorite item.
be. The pork is the
pork
one you
yeah,
can
the
always
pork's
count on.
a standby. And that Saturday and Sunday brunch, people forget about that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best brunches in town.
It's a great brunch.
In this fall season, there's an heirloom squash eggs Benedict,
Oof.
a meatless eggs Benedict, which is great.
perfect.
But there is meat in the form of a short rib sandwich. I mean, look at that brunch menu at Little Fox and you'll go there. Really good, both Saturday and Sunday. It's sometimes hard to get into at night. Saturday, Sunday brunch, check it out.
Yep. You got a couple more honorable mentions?
I do. Again, one of these, sometimes when we pick our favorite places, a lot of them are in our neighborhood because we tend to go there a lot and we kind of have an affinity for them. And you
Yes.
feel like you're part of the group. And
Yep.
it's a Cheers type feeling. Pastaria is in my neighborhood. I go there an awful lot. They have recently remodeled that restaurant. And I don't think a lot of people know that. There's different colors in there, different lighting, different tables and chairs. They've shifted a few things around anyway. It's different, but the same, basically. There's a new happy hour from 4 to 5:30, which is a great thing. And again, very reasonably priced pizzas. The pizzas there are $14 instead of
Oh, wow.
$24.
That's great.
So that's a great happy hour price. And this is too, I didn't realize they are opening up for brunch as well.
Oh,
First
wow.
time since the pandemic. By the time this airs, there will be a brunch menu there, breakfast pizza, wood-fired eggs, frittata, a breakfast sandwich, and some of the sandwiches next door from Pastaria Deli
Sure.
and wine. So anyway, a lot of reasons to keep going to Pastaria. One of them for sure for me is to sit at the pass, sit
Yes.
where all the food comes
Oh, it's so
across.
fun to watch.
And you can sit by the oven or you can sit by the pasta making station, and it's just an experience, and you're sitting in the kitchen.
Yeah.
There's no better experience.
Their ability to be so consistent day in and day out at the level of volume that they do is astounding. I have a Gerard Craft restaurant on my honorable mentions too. That's Brasserie. I love Brasserie so much.
Everybody loves brasserie.
Everyone, and that's just it. Everyone loves Brasserie. What more can you say? It is the quintessential French bistro here in town. That roasted chicken, I know Gerard said that if he ever took it off the menu, he would have riots in the street for good reason. Their French onion soup, unbelievable. Their Brasserie burger. It doesn't
One
get
of the best in
better
town.
than
No,
that.
it's
Oh my
great.
gosh. That place is it's so transportive. I just love it.
And when the weather's nice, when you can sit on patio, it feels like a bistro.
Yes. Just lovely. So, final honorable mention is Balkan Treat Box. You cannot talk about best restaurants in St. Louis without talking about Balkan. This is Lauren and Ed O'Nalick's lovely Webster Groves restaurant, James Beard nominated perennially.
And it was another restaurant that started as a food truck with a
Yes.
big old wood burning
Oh my
oven in it.
gosh.
Where you'd see this thing going down the street, belching smoke, and you're like,
Oh,
what the heck is
What
that
is going
thing?
on there?
And that's what
Yes.
put them on the map
Yes.
locally. And then when they finally decided to
Oh
do this
my
brick and mortar, did people get excited or what? And it's been bonkers ever since.
Bonkers ever since, and rightfully so. I would say you're not going to go wrong with anything, but the pide, it's basically like a boat-shaped wood-fired bread lined with cheese. Oh, that's one of my favorites. And then the cevapi. The cevapi is my go-to order. They're beef seasoned little sausages. You put a little bit of the
Salmon bread.
yes, and that salmon bread. Put some white onion on there, roll them up, like you rip off pieces of the bread, roll them off.
It's so fun.
Maybe put a little of that. I think it's called kaimak, the white condiment that's almost kind of like sour cream. It's heaven on earth. I'm going there now.
And now, if you remember, it was busy, only open for lunch for the longest time. The lines would go all the way out the door, but at least the line moved quickly. And now they're open for dinner on weekend nights. And thank God, because people have been wanting this for a long time.
Yes. Love Balkan. All right.
All right, I got one more. It's like we're going to do this. We're going to do this one more thing. And this is just because of this new item. I love this place anyway. It's O&O Pizza that we
Oh.
always joke.
Eggplant parm.
Yes. Well, we always joke it could be O&O Pizza and pasta because their pasta is so good.
Oh, no, eggplant. That's what I would have if I were renaming it.
Mikey Risk, Chef Mikey, has got a pasta on the menu now that serves two. It's called Sunday Gravy.
Oh,
All
I've
right.
had this.
You have already?
It's so good.
Let me lay it out for you because
Yes.
it's a monster. There's a bone-in pork ossobuco. There are two big meatballs. There is some grilled salsiccia, 10 ounces of casarecce pasta, and there's a big hunk of burrata on top of it with some ribboned zucchini. He put it on the menu, and it's been selling like crazy. I have a feeling it's about $60 now, but again, it easily feeds two people. Or you put that in the middle of your table for six, and it's gone. But his pro tip is, you're going to have some left over probably just because it's this big monster dish. Add some eggs to it the next day for breakfast.
Oh, George,
That's
stop.
from Mikey
That is
Risk.
so good. Yeah, it is spectacular. It's one of those things that shows up at your table, and what a marvel it is. Definitely a centerpiece.
Oh, such great stuff. And really, there is one theme that we can point to with all these restaurants, and it's consistency.
Yes.
And that's always what I hear. And this is really a big problem because if somebody has a bad experience, that's it. They'll write the place off. It takes one time. That's how important consistency is. And that's today's micro rant is inconsistency in restaurants. It's the number one restaurant killer, in my opinion. It's incredibly important. restaurants just have to pay strict attention to this all the time. I've got a couple things that I think can help that I think have been problems in the past. One of these big monster menus, it's hard to have consistency when you have a 3-page menu.
Yeah, how do you keep track of everything?
You can't have attention to detail when there's that many items. That's one. And the other thing that I think is really important, this is a little inside baseball, but to have a food expediter, the guy who watches that food coming out of the kitchen, it has to be the right guy. It can be a chef, a manager, a sous chef, but somebody who isn't afraid to say, I'm sorry, that dish won't cut it. You've got to do that again. And you don't see that often enough. You see a lot of stuff end up on tables that's just like, how the heck did this make it out this far? It's because the expediter isn't the right guy or he's not paying attention.
Yes.
Anytime you hear that somebody has figured it all out or they've got the secret, it's usually consistency.
Yes.
And that is the most important thing that you can do in a restaurant.
It's not even the sexiest thing to talk about. I think a lot of people think of cooking in a restaurant and they think of throwing out some new ingredients, coming up with some new special or whatever. The hard, real work of running a restaurant is the day in and day out execution. And restaurants that are consistent, that's what they've committed themselves to. And that's why they end up on our list.
That's what you hear a lot. Places like Annie Gunn's and places like The Crossing. And even back in the day, I remember when Bill Cardwell had Cardwell's at the Plaza. What did you like about the place? It was consistent. Consistent all the time. That's it. That's the gold standard. That's what you have to shoot for. Sounds easy, isn't easy. Folks, that's it for today. We're going to do another Best Restaurants episode, I think, and maybe we'll do some sleepers. Some of these were kind of the more obvious ones. We're going to get into some that maybe aren't quite obvious that are really good. We're just going to tempt you with that. But that's all for today, folks. Thanks so much. Be sure to follow us and share with your friends. And we always provide links in the show notes for everything you heard about today. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. And feel free to give us a follow personally at George Mahey and Cheryl A. Bear.
If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And if you're hungry for even more content, you can subscribe to our dining newsletters for the freshest coverage on the local restaurant and culinary scene.
That's it for this week. Best dishes, and see you next time.